everybody, it's Alex again with another Futhark Friday. We're gonna start tackling the second, God, I hope I say this right, the A-E-T-T, or in simpler terms, the second grouping of 8 runes in the Futhark. Number 1 in that set is Hagalaz. Hopefully I'm saying this right. It'll be on the screen for spelling, and if anyone wants to call me out on it, feel free to do so. I'm learning just as much as everybody else. So, Hagalaz is represented by what we, and anyone that uses the Roman alphabet would see as an H. And this rune is the first rune in the second grouping of runes, and it's a doozy. Compared to how nicely Wunyo ended the first group, Hagalaz is quite brutal and blunt, to put it nicely. It is the rune of objective confrontation with past patterns. Who likes looking back into their past and being happy about it? Not a lot of people. The keywords for this rune are crisis and catastrophe. So it can be pretty alarming if it shows up in a reading. It can represent loss of power, loss of property, obsession with the past to your own detriment, and disappointment. But like every other rune, there is good to go with the scary, acceptance of the unchangeable, changing to match your ideals, changing for the better, completion of something important, and inner harmony. Transformation would be a good positive keyword to associate with Hagalaz. Going to another important point within the Futhark, numbers are super important. That is why we're going to get to this in another video, but that's why there's 24. It's 3 groups of 8. So it's very thought out, and there's a lot of methodical math involved. But Hagalaz is number 9, and 9 signals the completion of something and a perfect pattern. And being 9, it helps us that use the runes to take shelter from the storm it warns us of, because something's coming. It's unavoidable, but if you know how to prepare for it, you'll be better off. Since this does help with past patterns, it can be used very well for psychoanalysis, digging into your unconscious, shadowy self. So if any of you out there do shadow work and you wanted to incorporate some rune works, this one would be one of the better ones to use for that. And and Hagalaz can also be used as a force of repulsion or punishment. So using its destructive power against others is a thing. There are other runes that have detrimental kind of magics behind them that you can just kind of throw them at other people. I always say to be very careful not to do this unless it's very, very necessary, because runes, like any other magic, I don't know, a lot of people don't like karma or something, but I feel like in nature and in laws of nature, there's always something that comes as a consequence. So again, like any other thing we've talked on this channel, do so carefully and at your own risk. Now, another concept to treat this, because Hagalaz is represented by hail, or the hailstone itself. It's, like I said, radical change, disruption. It can even stand for severe weather, or again, a storm you are about to go through in your own life. So when we're thinking about it as hail, if any of you have experienced hail either in person or if you've seen it on the news or whatever, if it falls, it can be, I remember getting hail in Southern California of all places, and it was like tiny speckles, like they'd melt like almost as soon as they hit the ground, right? But I've also lived in Texas for a while, and we've had ice, coming out of the sky, softball size or bigger. Like, it wrecks cars, it's killed people, it's very destructive, can take down a whole tree. It can destroy a house. But we need to look at both sides of that, right? So hail, while destructive and crazy when it's huge, it will eventually melt, right? And that's another layer to it, though, because if hail melts and it's too cold and it resolidifies, that's just ice on the roads, your sidewalks. It's just another level of danger, honestly. I'm sure if y'all live anywhere super cold, you kind of are better prepared for icy roads or what have you, but we're not prepared at all here in Texas, that's for sure. The minute it snows here, the whole city goes into crisis. It's pretty wild. But at the end of all that, even if it's tiny like the hail in California or huge and turns into ice like here in Texas, it will eventually melt. And water is one of the most necessary things to have life in a planet, in an area, what have you. Water is life, pretty much. So, another way to look at this is something hard might be coming, or you're going through something super hard, and it will be inescapable. You will have to go through this. But there is the after where it should be that water, that growth, new life, or maybe if it's not new life, a better life, right? So, like I said, two sides to every coin, right? That's just how runes are. Good thing they're not all just like terrifying, because that would be pretty scary, and I don't think anyone would want to do anything with them. Um, Now, another thing kind of going along with the shadow work, some folks use the rune as a means to communicate with the underworld or spiritual realms. I personally don't do that, so I can't really speak to that. I'm sure somebody somewhere has either written a book or a blog or has a YouTube video about that, but you're not going to get it from me, unfortunately, at this time. But it is kind of that shadow element, that darker side of things. So if you do want to do that, this again is a good rune to use in those workings. Quick note, if you are reading about yourself or someone else and Hagalaz comes up, it could bring out buried memories, because again, this is all very your subconscious, unconscious, shadowy self, right? So be delicate with it, with yourself, and others especially, right? But I feel a lot of people just kind of, they're like, oh, well, I can take it. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you really can't, and that's okay. You need to just take a step back, take a breath, and moving on, right? Um, Now, Hagalaz is the rune of inevitability. Like I said earlier, it will happen. It's gonna happen. It's happening. So fate. Now I hope I'm saying these right. Weird and urlog. I'm gonna put those two words up, and again, I might be saying them wrong. Are terms that come up often with runes, but especially with Hagalaz. Weird is another word for fate, and it's really big in the runes, right? Like the Norns are known to kind of cast your lot in life and everything. Um, so huge chunks of your life were predetermined and again inevitable. That's kind of like a big thing in this theme. But Orlog, again saying it right, is another similar word to fate and destiny, but it's slightly different. It's more it's better translated as your primal layers, that your fate was kind of written, but your actions and deeds were your layers of Orlog in your own life, but significant actions left impact, not just your everyday humdrum life stuff. And the last other positive note for Hagalaz is that it has been a symbol of protection for the home, or has been used as a symbol to bless marriages. So it does have many sides, good, bad, and indifferent almost. And there is a slight connection to, since it is the word hail, that it could be hail as in you're hailing somebody, or in some practices when you are welcoming the elements to a ritual or deity or something else, that you, a lot of people do say hail and welcome. There is some theory that that does come from using the word hail in the Hagalaz rune. Don't know how true that is, but it is what it is. So, what's the thing about Hagalaz, right? So, quick wrap up, it's the rune of hail, a symbol of nature's destructive power. Its biggest lesson is acceptance of that which cannot be changed. And that's pretty much it. And I will catch y'all in another couple weeks for the next rune. And I'll talk to y'all then. Bye y'all.